Hello, this is Rewind, Relax, Release. I'm your host, Daleena. This episode will be geared for sleep, so feel free to go ahead and start getting comfortable. Go ahead and make sure that your pillow is just right and adjust your blankets and settle in for a good night's sleep. And so as not to disturb your sleep later, I want to thank you for listening, and I would like to invite you to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help if you do those things, and share this with any of your friends that might enjoy it. If you have any questions, comments, or episode suggestions, please feel free to email me at rewindrelaxrelease@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and take care of yourself. You're worth it. Now let's get started. This episode is going to be a reading of a collection of works by Hellen Keller. The title is The World I Live In. And the first essay that I'll be reading from is titled The Seeing Hand. Relax and enjoy, and I hope you sleep well. The Seeing Hand. I have just touched my dog. He was rolling on the grass with pleasure in every muscle and limb. I wanted to catch a picture of him in my fingers, and I touch him lightly as I would cobwebs. But lo, his fat body revolved, stiffened, and solidified in an upright position, and his tongue gave my hand a lick. He pressed close to me as if he were fain to crowd himself into my hand. He loved it with his tail, with his paw, with his tongue. If he could speak, I believe he would say with me that paradise is attained by a touch, for touch is all love and intelligence. This small incident started me on a chat about hands, and if my chat is fortunate, I have to thank my dog, Star. In any case, it is pleasant to have something to talk about that no one else has monopolized. It is like making a new path in the trackless woods, blazing the trail where no foot has pressed before. I am glad to take you by the hand and lead you along an untrodden way into a world where the hand is supreme. But at the very outset, we encounter difficulty. You are so accustomed to light, I fear you will stumble when I try to guide you through the land of darkness and silence. The blind are to be the best of guides. Still, though, I cannot warrant not to lose you. I promise that you shall not be led into fire or water, or fall into a deep pit. If you will follow me patiently, you will find that there's a sound so fine nothing lives twixt it and silence, and that there is more meant in the things that meets the eye. My hand is to me what your hearing and sight together are to you. In large measure, we travel the same highways, read the same books, speak the same language, yet our experiences are different. All my comings and goings turn on the hand as on a pivot. It is the hand that binds me to the world of men and women. The hand is my feeler with which I reach through isolation and darkness and seize every pleasure, every activity that my fingers encounter. With the dropping of a little word from another's hand into mine, a slight flutter of the fingers began the intelligence, the joy, the fullness of my life, Like Job, I feel as if the hand has made me, fashioned me together round and about, and molded my very soul. In all of my experiences and thoughts, I am conscious of the hand. Whatever moves me, whatever thrills me, it is a hand that touches me in the dark, and that touch is my reality. You might as well say that a sight which makes you glad, or a blow which brings the sting of tears to your eyes, is unreal, as to say that those impressions are unreal which I have accumulated by means of touch. The delicate tremble of a butterfly's wings in my hand, the soft petals of violets curling into cool folds of their leaves, or lifting sweetly out of the meadow grass the clear, firm outline of face and limb, the smooth arch of a horse's neck, and the velvety touch of his nose. All these things and 1,000 resultant combinations which take shape in my mind constitute my world. Ideas make the world we live in, and impressions furnish ideas. My world is built of touch sensations, devoid of physical color and sound, but without color and sound it breathes and throbs with life. Every object is associated in my mind with tactile qualities, which combine in countless ways and give me a sense of power, of beauty, or of incongruity. For with my hands I can feel the comic as well as the beautiful in outward appearance of things. Remember that you, dependent on your sight, do not realize how many things are tangible. All palpable things are morbid or rigid, solid or liquid, big or small, warm or cold, and these qualities are variously modified. The coolness of a water lily rounding in its bloom is different from the coolness of an evening wind in summer. And different again from the coolness of rain that soaks into the hearts of growing things and gives them life and body. The velvet of a rose is not that of a ripe peach or of a baby's dimpled cheek. The hardness of a rock is to the hardness of wood what a man's deep bass is to a woman's voice when it is low. I call beauty I find in certain combinations of all of these qualities. And it is largely derived from the flow of curved and straight lines which is over all things. What does this straight line mean to you? I think you will ask. It means several things. It symbolizes duty. It seems to have the quality of inexorableness that duty has. When I have something to do that must not be set aside, I feel as if I were going forward in a straight line, bound to arrive somewhere or go on forever without swerving to the right or to the left. That is what it means. To escape this mortalizing, you should ask, how does the straight line feel? It feels as I suppose it looks, straight. A dull thought drawn out endlessly. Eloquence to the touch resides not in straight lines, but in unstraight lines, or in many curved and straight lines together. They appear and disappear, are now deep, now shallow, now broken off, or lengthened, or swelling. They rise and sink beneath my fingers. They are full of sudden starts and pauses, and their variety is as inexhaustible and wonderful. So you see, I am not shut out from the region of the beautiful, though my hand cannot perceive the brilliant colors in the sunset, or on the mountain, or reach into the blue depths of the sky. Physics tells me that I am well off in a world which, I am told, knows neither cold nor sound, but is made in terms of size and shape and inherent qualities. For at least every object appears to my fingers, standing solidly right up, and is not an inverted image on the retina, which I understand your brain is at an infinite, though unconscious labor to set back on its feet. A tangible object passes complete into my brain with warmth of life upon it, and occupies the same place that it does in space, for without egotism the mind is large as the universe. When I think of hills, I think of upward strength I tread upon. When water is the object of my thought, I feel the cool shock of the plunge and the quick yielding of waves that crisp and curl and ripple about my body. The pleasing changes of rough and smooth, pliant and rigid, curved and straight in bark and branches of a tree give the truth to my hand. An immovable rock with its juts and warped surface bends beneath my fingers into all manner of grooves and hollows. The bulge of a watermelon and the puffed up roundness of squashes that sprout, bud and ripen in the strange garden planted where behind my fingertips are ludicrous in my tactile memory and imagination. My fingers are tickled to delight by the soft ripple of a baby's laugh, and I find amusement in its lusty crow of a barnyard autocrat. I once had a pet rooster that used to perch on my knee and stretch its neck and crow. A bird in my hand then was worth two in the barnyard. My fingers cannot, of course, get the impression of a large whole at a glance, but I feel the parts, and my mind puts them together. I move around my house, touching object after object in order before I can form an idea of the entire house. In other people's houses, I can only touch what is shown to me. The chief objects of interest, carvings on the wall, or a curious architectural feature, exhibited like a family album. Therefore, a house with which I am not familiar has for me, at first, no general effect or harmony of detail. It is not a complete conception, but a collection of object impressions which, as they come to me, are disconnected and isolated. But my mind is full of associations, sensations, theories, and with them it constructs the house. The process reminds me of building Solomon's temple, where was neither saw nor hammer nor any tool heard while the stones were being laid one upon another. The silent worker is imagination, which decrees reality out of chaos. Without imagination, a poor thing my world would be. My garden would be a silent patch of earth, strewn with sticks of a variety of shapes and smells. But when the eye of my mind is open to its beauty, the bare ground brightens beneath my feet, and the hedgerow bursts into leaf, and the rose tree shakes its fragrance everywhere. I know how budding trees look, and I enter into an amorous joy of the mating birds, and this is the miracle of imagination. Although, compared with the life-warm, mobile face of a friend, the marble is cold and pulseless and unresponsive, yet it is beautiful to my hand. twofold is the miracle when through my fingers my imagination reaches forth and meets the imagination of an artist which has embodied in sculpture form. Its flowing curves and bendings are real pleasure, only breath is wanting. But under the spell of imagination, the marble thrills and becomes divine reality of the ideal. Imagination puts sentiment into every line and curve, and the statue in my touch is indeed the goddess herself who breathes and moves and enchants. It is true, however, that some sculptures, even recognized masterpieces, do not please my hand. When I touch what there is of the winged victory, it reminds me at first of a headless, limbless dream that flies toward me in an unrestful sleep. The garments of the victory thrust stiffly out behind and do not resemble garments that I have felt flying, fluttering, folding, and spreading in the wind. But the imagination fulfills these imperfections, and straightway the victory becomes a powerful and spirited figure with the sweep of sea winds in her robes and the splendor of conquest in her wings. I find in a beautiful statue perfection of bodily form, the qualities of balance and completeness. The Minerva, hung with a web of poetic illusion, gives me a sense of exhilaration that is almost physical, and I like the luxuriant wavy hair of Bacchus and Apollo, and the wreath of ivory so suggestive on pagan holidays. So imagination crowns the experience of my hands, and they learned their cunning from the wise hand of another, which itself guided by imagination, led me safely in the paths that I knew not, made darkness light before me, and made crooked ways straight. This sleep episode is another essay written by Hellen Keller. The title of the collection is The World I Live In. The title of the episode is The Hands of Others. The hands of others. The warmth and protectiveness of the hand are most home-felt to me, who have always looked to it for aid and joy. I understand perfectly how the psalmist can lift up his voice with strength and gladness, singing, "I put my trust in the Lord at all times, and his hand shall uphold me, and I shall dwell in safety." In the strength of human hand, too, there is something divine. I am told that the glance of a beloved eye thrills one from a distance, but there is no distance in the touch of a beloved hand. Even the letters I receive are kind letters that betray the heart's deep history, in which we feel the presence of a hand. It is interesting to observe the differences in hands of people. They show all kinds of vitality, energy, stillness, cordiality. I never realized how living the hand is until I saw those chill plaster images in Mr. Hutton's collection of casts. The hand I know in life has fullness of blood in its veins and is elastic with spirit. How different Mr. Hutton's hand was from its dull, insensate image. To me, the cast lacks the very form of the hand. Of many casts in Mr. Hutton's collection, I did not recognize any, not even my own. But a loving hand I never forget. I remember in my fingers the large hands of Bishop Brooks, brimful of tenderness and a strong man's joy. If you were deaf and blind and could have held Mr. Jefferson's hand, you would have seen in it a face and heard a kind voice unlike any other you have known. Mark Twain's hand is full of whimsies and the drollest of humors, and while you hold it, the drollery changes to sympathy and championship. I am told that the words I have just written do not describe the hands of my friends, but merely endow them with the kindly human qualities which I know they possess, and which language conveys in abstract words. The criticism implies that I am not giving the primary truth of what I feel. But how otherwise do descriptions in books I read, written by men who can see, render visible the look of a face? I read that a face is strong, gentle, that it is full of patience, of intellect, that it is fine, sweet, noble, beautiful. Have I not the same right to use these words in describing what I feel as you have in describing what you see? They express truly what I feel in the hand. I am seldom conscious of the physical qualities, and I do not remember whether the fingers of a hand are short or long, or the skin is moist or dry. No more can you, without conscious effort, recall the details of a face, even when you've seen it many times. If you do recall the features, and say that an eye is blue, a chin sharp, a nose short, a cheek sunken, I fancy that you do not succeed well in giving the impression of the person. Not so well as when you interpret at once to the heart of the essential mortal qualities of the face, its humor, gravity, sadness, spirituality. If I should tell you in physical terms how a hand feels, you would be no wiser for my account than a blind man to whom you describe a face in detail. Remember that when a blind man recovers his sight, he does not recognize the commonest thing that has been familiar to his touch, the dearest face intimate to his fingers. And it does not help him at all that things and people have been described to him again and again. So you, who are untrained of touch, do not recognize a hand by the grasp. And so too, any description I might give would fail to make you acquainted with a friendly hand which my fingers have often folded about, and which my affection translates to my memory. I cannot describe hands under any class or type. There is no democracy of hands. Some hands tell me that they do everything with maximum bustle and noise. Other hands are fidgety and unadvised, with nervous, fussy fingers, which indicate a nature sensitive to the little pricks of daily life. Sometimes I recognize with foreboding the kindly but stupid hand of one who tells me with many words news that there is no news. I have met a bishop with a jocose hand, a humorist with a hand of leaden gravity, a man of pretentious valor with a more temperous hand, and a quiet, apologetic man with a fist of iron. When I was a little girl, I was taken to see a woman who was blind and paralyzed. I shall never forget how she held out a small, trembling hand and pressed sympathetically into mine. My eyes fill with tears as I think of her. The weariness, pain, darkness, and sweet patience were all to be felt in her thin, wasted, groping, loving hand. Few people who do not know me will understand, I think, how much I get of the mood of a friend who is engaged in oral conversation with somebody else. My hand follows his motions. I touch his hand, his arm, his face. I can tell when he is full of glee over a good joke, which has not been repeated to me, or when he is telling a lively story. One of my friends is rather aggressive, and his hand always announces the coming of a dispute. By his impatient jerk, I know he has an argument ready for someone. I have felt him start as a sudden recollection or a new idea shot through his mind. I have felt grief in his hand. I have felt his soul wrap itself in darkness, majestically as in a garment. Another friend has positive, empathetic hands, which show great pertinency of opinion. She is the only person I know who empathizes her spelled words and accents them as she emphasizes and accents her spoken words when I read her lips. I like this varied emphasis better than the monotonous pound of unmodulated people who hammer their meaning into my palm. Some hands, when they clasp yours, beam and bubble over with gladness. They throb and expand with life. Strangers have clasped my hand like that of a long-lost sister. Other people shake hands with me as if with fear that I may do them mischief. Such persons hold out civil fingertips which they permit you to touch, and in the moment of contact they retreat, and inwardly you hope they will not be called upon again to take that hand of a dormouse valor. It betokens a prudish mind, ungracious pride, and not seldom mistrust. It is the antipode to the hand of those who have large, lovable natures. The handshake of some people makes you think of accident and sudden death. Contrast this ill-boding hand with the quick, skillful, quiet hand of a nurse whom I remember with affection because she took the best care of my teacher. I have clasped the hands of some rich people that spin not and toil not and yet are not beautiful. Beneath their soft, smooth roundness, what a chaos of undeveloped character. I am sure there is no hand comparable to the physician's in patient skill, merciful gentleness, and splendid certainty. No wonder that Ruskin finds in the sure strokes of the surgeon the perfection of control and the delicate precision for the artist to emulate. If the physician is a man of great nature, there will be healing for the spirit in his touch. This magic touch of well-being was in the hand of a dear friend of mine who was our doctor in sickness and health. His happy, cordial spirit did his patients good, whether they needed medicine or not. As there are many beauties of the face, so the beauties of the hand are many. Touch has its ecstasies. The hands of people of strong individuality and of sensitiveness are wonderfully mobile. In a glance of their fingertips, they express many shades of thought. Now and again I touch a fine, graceful, supple-wristed hand, which spells with same beauty and distinction that you must see in the handwriting of some highly cultivated people. I wish you could see how prettily little children spell in my hand. They are wild flowers of humanity, and their finger motions wild flowers of speech. All of this is my private science of palmistry, and when I tell your fortune, it is by no mysterious intuition or gypsy witchcraft, but by natural, explicable recognition of the embossed character of your hand. Not only is the hand as easy to recognize as the face, but it reveals its secrets more openly and unconsciously. People control their countenances, but the hand is under no such restraint. It relaxes and becomes listless when the spirit is low and dejected. The muscles tighten when the mind is excited or the heart glad, and permanent qualities stand written on it all the time. This sleep episode is another reading of an essay by Hellen Keller. The collection of essays is The World I Live In, and the essay itself is titled The Hand of the Race. The Hand of the Race. Look in your century dictionary, or if you're blind, ask your teacher to do it for you, and learn how many idioms are made of the idea of hand, and how many words are formed from the Latin root manus. Enough words to name all the essential affairs of life. Hand, with quotations and compounds, occupies 24 columns, 8 pages of this dictionary. The hand is defined as the organ of apprehension. How perfectly the definition fits my case in both sense and word. Apprehend. With my hand I seize and hold all that I find in 3 worlds: physical, intellectual, spiritual. Think how man has regarded the world in terms of the hand. All life is divided between what lies on one hand and the other. The products of skill are manufactures. The conduct of affairs is management. History seems to be on the record, alas, for our chronicles of war, as the maneuvers of the armies. But the history of peace too, the narrative of labor in the field, the forest, and the vineyard, is written in the victorious sign manual, the sign of the hand that conquers the wilderness. The laborer himself is called a hand. In Manacle and Manumission, we read the story of slavery and freedom. The minor idioms are myriad, but I will not recall too many lest you cry, hands off. I cannot desist, however, from the word game until I have set down a few. Whatever is not one's own by first possession is second hand. That's what I'm told my knowledge is. But my well-meaning friends come to my defense, and not content with endowing me with natural first-hand knowledge, which is rightfully mine, ascribe to me a preternatural sixth sense, and credit to miracles and heaven-sent compensations all that I have won and discovered with my good right hand, and with my left hand too, for with that I read, and it is as true and honorable as the other. By what half-development of human power has the left hand been neglected? When we arrive at the acme of civilization, shall we not be ambidextrous? And in our hand-to-hand contests against difficulties, shall we not be doubly triumphant? It occurs to me, by the way, that when my teacher was training my unreclaimed spirit, her struggle against the powers of darkness with the stout arm of discipline and the light of manual alphabet was in two senses a hand-to-hand conflict. No essay would be complete without the quotations from Shakespeare. In the field which the presumption of my youth I thought was my own, he has reaped before me. In almost every play there are passages where the hand plays a part. Lady Macbeth's heartbroken soliloquy over her little hand, from which all the perfumes of Arabia will not wash the stain, is the most pitiful moment in the tragedy. Mark Antony rewards Scaurus, the bravest of his soldiers, by asking Cleopatra to give him her hand. Commend unto his lips thy favoring hand. In a different mood, he is enraged because Thyras, whom he despises, has presumed to kiss the hand of the queen, my playfellow, the kingly seal of high hearts. When Cleopatra is threatened with humiliation of gracing Caesar's triumph, she snatches a dagger, exclaiming, "I will trust my resolution and my good hands." With the same swift instinct, Cassius trusts his hands when he stabs Caesar. "Speak, hands, for me. Let me kiss your hand," says one blind Gloucester to Lear. "Let me wipe it first," replies the broken old king. "It smells of mortality." How charged this single touch with sad meaning. How it opens our eyes to the fearful purging Lear has undergone, to learn that the royal is no defense against ingratitude and cruelty. Gloucester's exclamation about his son, "Did I but live to see thee in my touch, I'd say I had eyes again," as true to a pulse within me as the grief he feels. The ghost in Hamlet recites the wrongs from which springs the tragedy. "Thus was I sleeping by a brother's hand, at once of life, of crown, of queen dispatched." That passage in Othello stops your breath. That passage full of bitter double intention, in which Othello's suspicion tips with evil what he says about Desdemona's hand, and she in innocence answers only the innocent meaning of his words. for 'twas that hand that gave away my heart. Not all Shakespeare's great passages about the hand are tragic. Remember the light play of words of Romeo and Juliet, where the dialogue, flying nimbly back and forth, weaves a pretty sonnet about the hand. And who knows the hand if not the lover? The touch of the hand is in every chapter of the Bible. Why, you could almost rewrite Exodus as the story of the hand. Everything is done by the hand of the Lord and Moses. The oppression of the Hebrews is translated thus: the hand of Pharaoh was heavy upon the Hebrews. Their departure out of the land is told in these vivid words: the Lord brought the children of Israel out of the house of bondage with a strong hand and a stretched out arm. At the stretching out of the hand of Moses, the waters of the Red Sea part and stand all on a heap. When the Lord lifts his hands in anger, thousands perish in the wilderness. Every act, every decree in the history of Israel, as indeed in the history of the human race, is sanctioned by the hand. Is it not used in great moments of swearing, blessing, cursing, smiting, agreeing, marrying, building, destroying? Its sacredness is in the law that no sacrifice is valid unless the sacrificer lays his hand upon the head of the victim. The congregation lay their hands on those who are sentenced to death. How terrible the dumb condemnation of their hands must be to the condemned. When Moses builds the altar on Mount Sinai, he is commanded to use no tool, but rear it with his own hands. Earth, sea, sky, man, and all lower animals are holy unto the Lord, because he has formed them with his hand. When the psalmist considers the heavens and the earth, he exclaims, "What is man, O Lord, that thou art mindful of him? for thou hast made him to have dominion over the works of thy hands. The supplicating gesture of the hand always accompanies a spoken prayer. And with clean hands goes the pure heart. Christ comforted and blessed and healed and wrought many miracles with his hands. He touched the eyes of the blind, and they were opened. When Jairus sought him, overwhelmed with grief, Jesus went and laid his hands on the ruler's daughter, and she awoke from her sleep of death to her Father's love. You also remember how he healed the crooked woman. He said to her, "Woman, thou art loosed from thy infirmity." And he laid his hands on her, and immediately she was made straight, and she glorified God. Look where we will, we find the hand in time and history, working, building, inventing, bringing civilization out of barbarism. The hand symbolizes power and the excellence of work. The mechanic's hand, that the minister of elemental forces, and the hand that hews and saws and cuts and builds. Is useful in the world equally with the delicate hand that paints a wild flower. Or molds a Grecian urn, or the hand of a statesman that writes the law. The eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of thee. Blessed be the hand, thrice blessed be the hands that work. The power of touch. Some months ago, in a newspaper which announced the publication of Matilda Ziegler's magazine for the blind, appeared the following paragraph. Quote, many poems and stories must be omitted because they deal with sight. Allusion to moonbeams, rainbows, starlight, clouds, and beautiful scenery may not be printed because they serve to emphasize the blind man's sense of his affliction. End quote. That is to say, I may not talk about beautiful mansions and gardens because I am poor. I may not read about Paris and the West Indies because I cannot visit them in their tutorial reality. I may not dream of heaven because it is possible that I may never go there. Yet a venturesome spirit impels me to use words of sight and sound whose meaning I can guess only from the analogy and fancy. This hazardous game is half the delight, the frolic of daily life. I glow as I read of splendors which the eye alone can survey, allusions to moonbeams and clouds do not emphasize the sense of my affliction. They carry my soul beyond affliction's narrow actuality. Critics delight to tell us what we cannot do. They assume that blindness and deafness sever us completely from the things which the seeing and the hearing enjoy, and hence they assert that we have no moral right to talk about the beauty of the skies, mountains, the song of birds and colors. They declare that the very sensations that we have from the sense of touch are vicarious, as though our friends felt the sun for us. They deny any propori that they have not seen and I have felt. Some brave doubters have gone so far even as to deny my existence. In order, therefore, that I may know that I exist, I resort to Descartes' method. I think, therefore I am. Thus I am metaphysically established, and I throw upon the doubters the burden of proving my non-existence. When we consider how little has been found out about the mind, is it not amazing that anyone should presume to define what one can know or cannot know? I admit that there are innumerable marvels in this visible universe unguessed by me. Likewise, O confident critic, there are a myriad of sensations perceived by me of which you do not dream. Necessity gives the eye a precious power of seeing, and in the same way it gives the precious power of feeling to the whole body. Sometimes it seems as if the very substance of my flesh were so many eyes looking out at will upon a world new created every day. The silence and darkness, which are said to shut me in, open my door most hospitably to countless sensations that distract, inform, admonish, and amuse. With my three trusty guides, touch, smell, and taste, I make many excursions into the borderland of experience, which is in sight of the city of light. Nature accommodates itself to every man's necessity. If the eye is maimed so that it does not see the beauteous face of the day, the touch becomes more poignant and discriminating. Nature proceeds through the practice to strengthen and augment the remaining senses. For this reason, the blind often hear with a greater ease and distinction than other people. The sense of smell becomes almost a new faculty to penetrate the tangle and vagueness of things. Thus, according to an immutable law, the senses assist and reinforce one another. It is not for me to say whether we see best with the hand or the eye. I only know that the world I see with my fingers is alive, ruddy, and satisfying. Touch brings the blind many sweet certainties which our more fortunate fellows miss, because their sense of touch is uncultivated. When they look at things, they put their hands in their pockets. No doubt that is one reason why their knowledge is often so vague, inaccurate, and useless. It is probable, too, that our knowledge of phenomena beyond the reach of the hand is equally imperfect. But all events we behold them through a golden mist of fantasy. There is nothing, however, misty or uncertain about what we can touch. Through the sense of touch, I know the faces of friends, the illimitable variety of straight and curved lines, all surfaces, the exuberance of the soil, the delicate shapes of flowers, the noble forms of trees, and the range of mighty winds. Besides objects, surfaces, and the atmospherical changes, I perceive countless vibrations. I derive much knowledge from everyday matter, from the jars and jolts which are to be felt everywhere in the house. Footsteps I discover very tactily according to the age, the sex, and the manners of the walker. It is impossible to mistake a child's patter for the tread of a grown person. The steps of a young man, strong and free, differs from the heavy, sedated tread of the middle-aged, and from the step of the old man whose feet drag along the floor or beat it with slow, faltering accents. On a bare floor, a girl walks with rapid, elastic rhythm, which is quite distinct from the graver step of the elderly woman. I have laughed over the creak of new shoes and the clatter of a stout maid performing a jig in the kitchen. One day in the dining room of a hotel, a tactual dissonance arrested my attention. I sat still and I listened with my feet. I found that two waiters were walking back and forth, but not with the same gait. A band was playing and I could feel the music, waves along the floor. One of the waiters walked in time to the band. It was graceful and light, while the other disregarded the music and rushed from table to table to the beat of some discord in his own mind. Their steps reminded me of a spirited war steed harnessed with a cart horse. Often the footsteps reveal in some measure the character and mood of the walker. I feel them in firmness and indecision, hurry and deliberation, activity and laziness, fatigue, carelessness, timidity, anger, sorrow. I am most conscious of these moods and traits in persons with whom I'm familiar. Footsteps are frequently interrupted by certain jars and jerks, so that I know when one kneels, kicks, shakes something, sits down, gets up. Thus I follow to some extent the actions of the people around me and the changes of their posture. Just now a thick, soft patter of bare, padded feet and a slight jolt told me that my dog had jumped on a chair to look out the window. I do not, however, allow him to go uninvestigated, for occasionally I feel the same motion, and I find him not in the chair, but trespassing on the sofa. When a carpenter works in the house or in a barn nearby, I know by the slanting up and down tooth vibration and the ringing of concussion of blow upon blow that he is sawing or hammering. If I am near enough, a certain vibration traveling back and forth along the wooden surface brings me the information that he's using a plane. A slight fluffer on the rug tells me that the breeze has blown my papers off the table. A round thump is a signal that a pencil has rolled onto the floor. If a book falls, it gives a flat thud. A wooden rap on the balustrade announces that dinner is ready. Many of these vibrations are obliterated out of doors. On a lawn or the road, I can only feel the running and stamping and rumbles of wheels. By placing my hand on a person's lips and throat, I gain an idea of specific vibrations and interpret them. A boy's chuckle, a man's whoof, a surprise, the hem of annoyance or perplexity, the moan of pain, a scream, a whisper, a rasp, a sob, a choke, and a gasp. The utterance of animals, though wordless, are eloquent to me. the cat's purr, its mew, its angry, jerking, scolding spit, the dog's bow wow of warning or joyous welcome, its yelp of despair and its contented snore, the cow's moo, the monkey's chatter, the snort of a horse, the lion's roar, and the terrible snarl of the tiger. Perhaps I ought to add, for the benefit of the critics and the doubters who may peruse this essay, that with my own hands I have felt all of these sounds. From my childhood to the present day, I have availed myself to every opportunity to visit zoological gardens, menageries, and the circus, and all the animals except the tiger have talked into my hand. I have touched the tiger only in a museum where he is as harmless as a lamb. I have, however, heard him talk by putting my hand on the bars of his cage. I have touched several lions in the flesh and felt them roar like a cataract over rocks. I continue to know the plop of liquid in a pitcher, so if I spill my milk, I have not the excuse of ignorance. I am also familiar with the pop of a cork, the sputter of a flame, the tick-tack of a clock, and the metallic swing of a windmill, the labored rise and fall of the plump, voluminous spurt of a hose, the deceptive tap of a breeze at a door and a window, and many other vibrations past computing. There are tactile vibrations which do not belong to skin touch. They penetrate the skin, the nerves, the bone, like pain, heat, cold. The beat of a drum smites me through from the chest to the shoulder blades. The din of the train, the bridge and grinding of machinery retains its old man of the sea grip upon me long after its cause has been left behind. If vibration and motion combine in touch for any length of time, the earth seems to run away while I stand still. When I step off of the train, the platform whirls around, and I find it difficult to walk steady. Every atom of my body is a vibroscope, but my sensations are not infallible. I reach out and my fingers meet with something furry, which jumps about, gathers itself together as if to spring, and acts like an animal. I pause for a moment of caution. I touch it again more firmly, and find it is a fur coat fluttering and flapping in the wind. To me, as to you, the earth seems motionless, and the sun appears to move. For the rays of the afternoon draw more and more as they touch my face until the air becomes cool. From this, I understand it is how the shore seems to recede as you sail away from it. Hence, I feel no incredulity when you say that the parallel lines appear to converge and the earth and the sky meet. My few senses long ago revealed to me their imperfections and deceptivity. Not only are the senses deceptive, but the numerous usage in our language indicate that people who have 5 senses find it difficult to keep their functions distinct. I understand that we hear views, see tones, taste music. I am told that voices have color, tact, which I suppose to have matter of a nice perception, turns out to be a matter of taste. Judging from the large use of the word, taste appears to be the most important of all the senses. Taste governs the great and the small conventions of life. Certainly, the language of the senses is full of contradictions, and my fellows who have all 5 doors to their house are not more surely at home in themselves than I. May I not then be excused if this account of my sensations lacks precision? This essay is called Finer Vibrations. I have spoken of the numerous jars and jolts which daily ministers to my faculties. The loftier and grander vibrations which appeal to my emotions are varied and abundant. I listen with awe to the roll of thunder and the muffled avalanche of sound when the sea flings itself upon the shore. And I love the instrument by which all the diapasons of the ocean are caught and released in surging floods, the many-voiced organ. If music could be seen, I could point where the organ notes go as they rise and fall, climb up and rock and sway, now loud and deep, now high and stormy, anon soft and solemn, with lighter vibrations interspersed between and running across them. I should say that organ music fills to an ecstasy the act of feeling. There is tangible delight in other instruments too. The violin seems beautifully alive as it responds to the lightest wish of the master. The distinction between its notes is more delicate than between the notes of the piano. I enjoy the music of the piano most when I touch the instrument. I keep my hand on the piano case. I detect tiny quavers, returns of melody, and the hush that follows. This explains to me how sound can die away to the listening ear, how thin and clear, and thinner, clearer, farther going. Oh, sweet and far from cliff and scar, the horns of Elfland faintly blowing. I am able to follow the dominant spirit and mood of the music. I catch the joyous dance as it bounds over keys, the slow dirge, the reverie. I thrill to the fiery sweep of notes crossed by thunderous tones, like Walküre, where wanton kindles the dreaded flame that guards the sleeping Brunhild. How wonderful is the instrument on which a great musician sings with his hands. I have never succeeded in distinguishing one composition from another. I think this is impossible, but the concentration and the strain upon my attention would be so great that I doubt if the pleasure derived would be commensurate to the effort. Nor can I distinguish easily a tune that is sung, but by placing my hand on another's throat and cheek, I enjoy the changes of the voice. I know when it is low or high, clear or muffled, sad or cheery. The thin, quavering sensation of an old voice differs in my touch from the sensation of a young voice. A southerner's drawl is quite unlike the Yankee twang. Sometimes the flow and ebb of a voice is so enchanting that my fingers quiver with exquisite pleasure, even if I do not understand the word that is spoken. On the other hand, I am exceedingly sensitive to the harshness of noise like grinding, scraping, and the hoarse creak of rusty locks. Fog whistles are my vibratory nightmares. I have stood near a bridge in the process of construction and felt the tactile din, the rattle of heavy masses of stone, the roll of loosened earth, the rumble of engines, the dumping of dirt carts, the trip blows of Vulcan hammers. I can also smell the fire pots, the tar and cement. I have a vivid idea of mighty laborers in steel and stone. I believe that I am acquainted with all the fiendish noises which can be made by man or machinery. The whack of heavy falling bodies, the sudden shivering splinter of chopped logs, the crystal shatter of pounded ice, the crash of a tree hurled to the earth by a hurricane, the irrational, persistent chaos of noise made by switching freight trains, the explosion of gas, the blasting of stone, and the terrific grinding of rock upon rock which precedes the collapse. All of these have been in my touch experience and contributed to my idea of bedlam, of battle, a waterspout, an earthquake, and other enormous accumulations of sound. Touch brings me into contact with the traffic and manifold activity of the city. Besides the bustle and crowding of people, the nondescript grating and electric howling of streetcars, I am conscious of exhalations from many different kinds of shops, from automobiles, drays, horses, fruit stands, and many varieties of smoke, odorous, strange, and musty, the air sharp and dusty, with lime and with sand that no one can stand, make the street impassable, the people irascible, until everyone cries, as he trembling goes, with the sight of his eyes and the scent of his nose, quiet, stopped, or at least much diminished, gracious, when will this city be finished? Copyright 1907 by the Whitman Studio, listening to the trees. The city is interesting, but the tactile silence of the country is always most welcome after the din of town and the irritating concussions of the train. How noiseless and undisturbing are the demolition, the repairs and the alterations of nature, with no sound of hammer or saw or stone severed from stone. But music rustles and ripe thumps on the grass, come fluttering leaves and mellow fruits, which the wind tumbles all day from the branches. Silently all droops, all withers, all is poured back into the earth, that it may recreate. All sleeps while the busy architects of the day and night ply their silent work elsewhere. The same serenity reigns when all at once the soil yields up a newly wrought creation. Softly the ocean of grass, moss, and flowers rolls surge upon surge across the earth. Curtains of foliage drape and bare branches. Great trees make ready in their sturdy hearts to receive against birds, which occupy their spacious chambers to the south and west. Nay, there is no place so lowly that it may not lodge some happy creature. The meadow brook undoes its icy fetters with rippling notes, gurgles, and runs free. And all this is wrought in less than 2 months to the music of nature's orchestra, in the midst of balmy incense. The thousand soft voices of the earth have truly found their way to me. The small rustle in tufts of grass, the silky swish of leaves, the buzz of insects, the hum of bees in blossoms I have plucked, the feather of a bird's wings after its bath, and the slender rippling vibration of water running over pebbles. Once, having been felt, these loved voices rustle, buzz, hum, flutter, and ripple in my thought forever, an undying part of happy memories. Between my experiences and the experiences of others, there is no gulf of mute space which I may not bridge, for I have endlessly varied, instructive contacts with all the world, with life, with atmosphere whose radiant activity unfolds us all. The thrilling energy of all encasing air is warm and rapturous. Heat waves and sound waves play upon my face in infinite variety and combination until I am able to surmise what must be the myriad of sounds that my senseless ears have not heard. The air varies in different regions at different seasons of the year and different hours of the day. The odorous fresh sea breezes are distinct from the fitful breezes along the river banks, which are humid and freighted with inland smells. The bracing light, dry air of the mountains can never be mistaken for the pungent salt air of the ocean. The air of winter is dense, hard, compressed. In the spring it has a new vitality. It's light, mobile, and laden with 1,000 palpating odors from the earth, grass, sprouting leaves. The air of midsummer is dense, saturated or dry, and burning as if it came from a furnace. When a cool breeze rushes the salty stillness, it brings fewer odors than in May, and frequently the odor of coming tempest. The avalanche of coolness which sweeps through the low-hanging air bears little resemblance to the stinging coolness of winter. The rain of winter is raw, without odor, and dismal. The rain of spring is brisk, fragrant, charged with life-giving warmth. I welcome it delightedly as it visits the earth, enriches the streams, waters the hills abundantly, makes the furrows soft with showers for the seed, elicits a perfume which I cannot breathe deep enough. Spring rain is beautiful, impartial, lovable. With pearly drops it washes every leaf on tree and bush, ministers equally to salutary herbs and noxious growths, searches out every living thing that needs its beneficence. The senses assist and reinforce each other to such an extent that I am not sure whether touch or smell tells me the most about the world. Everywhere the river of touch is joined by the brooks of odor perception. Each season has its distinctive odors. The spring is earthy and full of sap. July is rich with odor of ripening grain and hay. As the season advances, a crisp, dry, mature odor predominates, and goldenrod, tansy, an everlasting mark on the onward march of the year. In autumn, soft, alluring scents fill the air, floating from the thicket of grass and flower and tree, and tell me of time and change and death and life's renewal, desire, and its fulfillment. This episode is a reading of an essay by Hellen Keller titled Smell the Fallen Angel. Smell the fallen angel. For some inexplicable reason, the sense of smell does not hold the high position it deserves among its sisters. There is something of a fallen angel about it. When it woos us with the woodland scents and beguiles us with the fragrance of lovely gardens, it is admitted frankly to our discourse, but when it gives us warning of something noxious in our vicinity, it is treated as if the demon had gotten the upper hand of the angel and is relegated to outer darkness, punished for its faithful service. It is most difficult to keep the true significance of words when one discusses the prejudice of mankind, and I find it hard to give an account of odor perceptions which shall be at once dignified and truthful. In my experience, smell is most important, and I find there is a high authority for the nobility of the sense which we have neglected and disparaged. It is recorded that the Lord commanded the incense be burnt before him continually with a sweet savor. I doubt if there is any sensation arising from sight more delightful than the odors which filter through the sun-warmed, wind-tossed branches, or the tide of scents which swells, subsides, and rises again, wave on wave, filling the wide world with invisible sweetness. A whiff of the universe is making us dream of worlds we have never seen, recalls in a flash entire epochs of our dearest experience. I never smell daisies without living over again the ecstatic mornings that my teacher and I spent wandering in the fields, while I learned new words and the names of things. Smell is a potent wizard that transports us across thousands of miles and all the years we have lived. The odor of fruits wafts me to my southern home, to my childish frolics in the peach orchard. Other odors, instantaneous and fleeting, cause my heart to dilate joyously or contract with remembered grief. Even as I think of smells, my nose is full of scents that start awake sweet memories of summers gone and ripening grains, fields far away. The faintest whiff from a meadow where the new mown hay lies in the hot sun, displaced here and the now, and I'm back again to the old red barn. My little friends and I are playing in the hay mow. A huge mow it is, packed with crisp, sweet hay, from the top of which the smallest child can reach the straining rafters. In their stalls beneath are farm animals. Here is Jerry, unresponsive, unbeautiful Jerry, crunching his oats like a true pessimist, resolved to find his feed not good, at least not so good as it ought to be. Again I touch Brownie, eager, grateful little Brownie, ready to leave the juiciest fodder for a pat, straining his beautiful slender neck for a caress. Nearby stands Lady Bell with sweet moist mouth, lazily extracting the sealed up chordle from timothy and clover, and dreaming of deep June pastures and murmurous streams. The sense of smell has told me of a coming storm hours before there was any sign of it visible. I noticed a first throb of expectancy, a slight quiver, a concentration in my nostrils. As the storm draws near, my nostrils dilate to better receive the flood of earth odors, which seem to multiply and extend until I feel the splash of rain against my cheek. As the tempest departs, receding farther and farther, the odors fade, becoming fainter and fainter, and die away beyond their bar of space. I know by smell the kind of house we entered. I have recognized an old-fashioned country house because it has several layers of odors left by succession of families of plants, perfumes, and draperies. In the evening quiet, there are fewer vibrations than in the daytime, and then I rely more largely upon smell. The sulfuric scent of a match tells me that the lamps are lighted. Later, I note the wavering trail of odor that flits about and disappears. It is the curfew signal. The lights are out for the night. Out of doors, I am aware by smell and touch of ground we tread and the places we pass. Sometimes when there is no wind, the odors are so grouped that I know the character of the country and can place a hayfield, a country store, a garden, a barn, a grove of pines, a farmhouse with the windows open. The other day I went to walk toward a familiar wood. Suddenly, a disturbing odor made me pause in dismay. Then followed a peculiar measured jar, followed by a dull, heavy thunder. I understood the odor and the jar only too well. The trees were being cut down. We climbed the stone wall to the left. It borders the wood which I have loved so long that it seems to be my peculiar possession. But today, an unfamiliar rush of air and an unwanted burst of sun told me that my tree friends were gone. The place was empty, like a deserted dwelling. I stretched out my hand where once stood steadfast pines, great, beautiful, sweet. My hand touched raw, moist stumps. All about lay broken branches like antlers of stricken deer. The fragrant, piled up sawdust swirled and tumbled about me. An unreasoning resentment flashed through me at this ruthless destruction of beauty that I love. But there is no anger, no resentment in nature. The air is equally charged with the odors of life and the destruction, for death equally, with growth forever, ministers to all conquering life. The sun shines as ever, and the winds riot through the newly opened spaces. I know that a new forest will spring where the old one stood, as beautiful, as beneficent. Touch sensations are permanent and definite. Odors deviate and are fugitive, changing in their shades, degrees, and location. There is something else in odor which gives me a sense of distance. I should call it horizon, the line where odor and fancy meet at the faintest limit of scent. Smell gives me more idea than touch or taste of the manner in which the sight and hearing probably discharge their functions. Touch seems to reside in the object touched, because there is a contact on the surfaces. In smell, there is no notion of religio, and odor seems to reside not in the object smelt, but in the organ. Since I smell a tree at a distance, it is comprehensible to me that a person sees it without touching it. I am not puzzled over the fact that he receives it as an image on his retina without religio, since my smell perceives the tree as a thin sphere with no fullness or content. By themselves, odors suggest nothing. I must learn by association to judge from them the distance of place and of the actions or the surroundings which are the usual occasions for them, just as I am told people judge from color, light, and sound. From exhalations, I learn much about people. I often know the work they are engaged in. The odors of wood, iron, paint, and drugs cling to the garments of those who work in them. Thus I can distinguish the carpenter from the ironworker, the artist from the mason or the chemist. When a person passes quickly from one place to another, I get a scent impression of where he has been. The kitchen, the garden, or the sick room. I gain pleasurable ideas of freshness and good taste from the odors of soap, toilet water, clean garments, woolen and silk stuffs, and gloves. I have not indeed the all-knowing scent of the hound or the wild animal. None but the halt and the blind need fear my skill in pursuit, for there are other things besides water, stale trails, confusing the cross tracks to put me at fault. Nevertheless, as human odors are as varied and capable of recognition as hands and faces, the dear odors of those I love are so definite, so unmistakable, that nothing can quite obliterate them. If many years should elapse before I saw an intimate friend again, I think I should recognize his odor instantly, in the heart of Africa, as promptly as I would my brother that barks. Once long ago in a crowded railway station, a lady kissed me as she hurried by. I had not even touched her dress, but she left a scent with her kiss which gave me a glimpse of her. The years are many since she kissed me, yet her odor is fresh in my memory. It is difficult to put into word the thing itself, the elusive person odor. There seems to be no adequate vocabulary of smells, and I must fall back on an approximate phrase and metaphor. Some people have a vague, unsubstantial odor that floats about, mocking every effort to identify it. It is the will-o-wisp of my olfactory experience. Sometimes I meet one who lacks a distinctive person scent, and I seldom find such a one lively or entertaining. On the other hand, one who has a pungent odor often possesses a great vitality, energy, and vigor of mind. Masculine exhalations are, as a rule, stronger, more vivid, more widely differentiated than those of women. On the odor of young men, there is something elemental as a fire, storm, and salt sea. It pulsates with buoyancy and desire. It suggests all things strong and beautiful and joyous, and gives me a sense of physical happiness. I wonder if others observe that all infants have the same scent. Pure, simple, undecipherable as their dormant personality. It is not until the age of 6 or 7 they begin to have perceptible individual odors. These develop and mature along with their mental and bodily powers. What I have written about smell, especially person smell, will perhaps be regarded as abnormal sentiment of one who can have no idea of the world of reality and beauty which the eye perceives. There are people who are colorblind, people who are tone deaf. Most people are smell blind and deaf. We should not condemn a musical composition on the testimony of an ear which cannot distinguish one chord from another, or judge a picture by the verdict of a colorblind critic. The sensation of smell, which cheer, inform, and broaden my life, are not less pleasant merely because some critic who treads the wide, bright pathway of the eye has not cultivated his olfactive sense. Without the shy, fugitive, often unobserved sensations, the certainties which taste and smell and touch give me, I should be obliged to take my conception of the universe wholly from others. I should lack the alchemy by which I now infuse into my world light, color, and the protein spark, the sensuous reality which enthreads and supports all the gropings of my imagination would be shattered. The solid earth would melt from under my feet and disperse itself in space. The objects dear to my hands would become formless, dead things, and I should walk among them